Alright guys, welcome back to Daily Read on YouTube. Once again, the working website is going to be www.realhistorywww.com, and the WW stands for worldwide, where the world's first human beings in all their civilizations were diverse blacks first. Okay? Now, basically I wanted to talk on a particular subject matter. I usually just go over information really quick, but this one is very important. And you can find it in the section on the main page titled Black Britain. I'm just going to start in part two. And so without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so it says, after several hundred years of falsified racist history, as we have all been taught, there were no blacks in Europe, and those that were there were African slaves, servants, or African charity cases. Black research, like our own, has forced the line European non-whites or non-blacks to make some grudging minor admissions like this. DNA study finds London was ethnically diverse from the start. Ethnically diverse means, or genetically diverse. Black people scientifically are genetically the most diverse. I'm not going to get into the science of that, but if you want to read that article, you can here. Click here for the news story. Once again, you can find this in Black Britain, okay, and it's on the main page. Anyways, while Europe's lying non-black or white foolishly ponder just how much truth they can afford to admit, we continue on with our research and sharing of the same. Now we're going to talk about the black and brown, excuse me, royalty and nobility of Great Britain. Now, brown skin is basically black skin people's reduced by half, okay? I'm brown, but my ancestry was not brown. You mix eumelanin, black skin, with pheomelanin, those born from black skin peoples, but a genetic mutation occurred in the melanin gene. So basically, two black skin peoples produced, for example, a red skin or pink skin, white, creamy white, or pale white skin person. Then they mix back with black skin peoples. Depending on the variations of the pheomelanin, the non-black skin color, you could end up with anywhere from light brown, what we call high yellow, or red bone, as we affectionately say, or some type of brown, dark brown, light brown. Okay, so this is an admix. So brown peoples or black skin peoples reduced by half, and they also have ship's logs during all the civil wars in Europe, where they were shipping out the remnants of the black peoples in Europe and the brown peoples, shipping them to the Caribbeans as prisoners of war. I have those ships record. They're on this same website, by the way. Anyways, moving on, guys. All right, so we're going to discuss the black and brown royalty and nobility of Great Britain. This wiki of John Mackay excerpted from Dictionary of National Biography, 1885 to 1900, Volume 35, Mackay, John, by Thomas Finlayson Henderson. And you should know who John Mackay is. He wrote that great book, which we're going to talk about. Mackay John, 1726, was a government agent or a spy. Author of the Memoirs of Secret Services, was a Scotsman of good education, but of his parentage or birth, nothing is known. According to his own account, he came early into the measures of the Revolution, and being on the return of King James from Ireland to France, sent to Paris to find out the further purposes of the Jacobites. Jacobites, by the way, were black skin peoples. He discovered that the French government intended to send an expedition against England in 1692. He arrived in London with the information before James reached his army encamped at La Hogue, and thus gave the government ample time for preparations against it. On the return of King William to England in October 1693, he was appointed Inspector of the Coast from Harwich to Dover in order to prevent treasonable correspondence between the two countries by passengers or letters. He discovered the proposed descent on England in 1696 in connection with the assassination plot of Sir George Barclay, and after its disclosure published a view of the court of Saint Germain from the year 1690 to 1695, with an account of the entertainment Protestants meet with there, directed to the malcontent Protestants of England. 1696. Of this pamphlet he states that no fewer than 30,000 copies were sold. After the Peace of Ryswick, 20 September 1697, he had the direction of the packet boats from Dover to France and Flanders. And he states that during the negotiations connected with the partition treaty in 1698, he had the charge of transmitting all the private expresses that passed between King William and Lord Portland. The packet boat service was discontinued after the death of King William in 1702, and Mackay went to look after an estate possessed by him and others in the island of Zant. In the Dominion of Venice, that should have been together, but you got the message. After the Battle of Ramillies in May 1706, he had the direction of the packet boats to Ostend, with instruction to watch narrowly all naval preparation at Ostend and other sea-coast towns, and in 1708 he discovered the preparation for an armament at Dunkirk. Subsequently, he came under the suspicion of the government and was thrown into prison, where he remained till the accession of George I. On obtaining his liberty, he endeavored at his own expense to establish a service of packet boats to Dublin, but the undertaking involved him in heavy expense and was soon dropped. Ultimately, he went abroad, and he died at Rotterdam in 1726. He is author of a somewhat important contribution to contemporary history, Memoirs of the Secret Services of John Mackay, Esquire, during the reign of King William, Queen Anne, and King George I. Now, I caution you guys, because this book has been so perverted. The images have been taken out. The true descriptions, certain descriptions have been taken out. And so you're not going to get the full story. But we have the full stories on these pages because fortunately this website got to the information before they were all destroyed. Okay? So you have to take that with a grain of salt. A lot of things have been taken out or watered down. Okay, anyways, moving on. Okay, so it says, including also the true secret history of the rise, promotions, and so on, of the English and Scots nobility, officers, civil, military, naval, and other persons of distinction from the Revolution. Now that part is pretty good, pretty interesting to read. You can get a free copy of this book if you type in the title, Memoirs of the Secret Services of John Mackay, Esquire, during the reign of King William, Queen Anne, and King George I. And you can find this on the internet for free and read it for free. You don't have to buy it because the one you buy is completely revised. Okay. All right. So in their respective characters at large, drawn up by Mr. Mackay pursuant to the direction of Her Royal Highness, the Princess Sophia, published from his original manuscript, as attested by his son, Spring Mackay, Esquire, London, 1733. An edition in French, translated by A.R., was published at The Hague in the same year. The chief value of the memoirs consists in its description of the leading personages of the period, which evidence both keen powers of observation and great impartiality of judgment. Swift has appended notes, generally of an accurate character, to many of the descriptions. Mackay was also the author of Journey Through England, 1714, and second edition, 1722, with an additional volume, third edition, 1723, with a third volume, reprinted with large editions, 1724 and 1732. Journey Through Scotland, which is a very good one. It talks about a lot of the original black peoples of Scotland, 1723, and Journey Through the Austrian Netherlands, 1725. Now, anyways, moving on. All right, so these are some of the pages from his book, pages from the Memoirs of the Secret Services of John Mackay. And this is what I wanted to get to, guys, but I just had to give you a quick introduction. Okay, Memoirs of the Secret Services of John Mackay. You can look this up on the internet. You'll find it. During the reign of King William and Queen Anne and King George the First. Now let's read a little bit of it. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay, let's make it smaller. Okay, get smaller. Okay, it doesn't want to get smaller, guys. What's going on here? All right, let me lift this thing up. There we go. I'm on my cell phone, so... And guys, once I get to like, maybe 100 subscriptions, then I get to the big internet. But right now, it just, it's more of a softcore type of thing. All right, so... And it gives you also the story, including also the true secret history of the Rife promotions and of the English and so on. Okay, that's just the front page. Now, we're going to discuss, okay, how he describes certain characters, okay, and see how they're described today. This is my key point. John Mackay, when he was in Britain, he saw the people, he described the people, and let's see if what we have today on the internet, if we should type in a name, matches up with what he saw. Now, page 36 of his book, Charles Lenez, Duke of Richmond. Now, let's see how John Mackay describes him. Is the son to King Charles II by the Duchess of Portsmouth. He was carried by his mother into France in the reign of King James, and left France in the reign of King William, when he declared himself for the religion and constitution of his country. He is a gentleman, good-natured to a fault, very well bred, and hath many valuable things in him. Is an enemy to buffonets, very credulous, well-shaped, black complexion, much like King Charles, not 30 years old. Okay, now let's see what they have here. This fake white portrait of Black Charles Lennox, 1st Duke of Richmond and Lennox, 1672 to 1723, son of King Charles II. Now let's describe him again, what John Mackay saw. He is a gentleman, talking about Charles Lewis, Duke of Richmond, son of King Charles, right? He is a gentleman, good-natured to a fault, very well bred, and hath many valuable things in him. Is an enemy to buffonets, very credulous, well-shaped, black complexion, much like King Charles, not 30 years old. Now look to the right. That's not what John Mackay saw, but that's what they're giving us today. You research for yourself, guys. Now let's go further. Charles I, 1600 to 1649, was king of the three kingdoms of England, Scotland, and Ireland from 27 March 1625 until his execution in 1649. His head was chopped off. Okay. Charles was the second son of King James. I believe the V1 is what? 7? 6? I'm not sure. I don't know about these Roman numerals. Anyways, of Scotland, but after his father inherited the English throne in 1603, he moved to England, where he spent much of the rest of his life. He became heir apparent to the English, Irish, and Scottish thrones on the death of his elder brother in 1612. An unsuccessful and unpopular attempt to marry him to a Spanish Habsburg princess culminated in an 8-month visit to Spain in 1623 that demonstrated the futility of the marriage negotiations. 2 years later, he married the Bourbon princess Henrietta Maria of France instead. After his succession, Charles quarreled with the Parliament of England, which sought to curb his royal prerogative. Charles believed in the divine right of kings and thought he could govern according to his own conscience. Many of his subjects opposed his policies, in particular the levying of taxes without parliamentary consent, and perceived his actions as those of a tyrannical absolute monarch. His religious policies, coupled with his marriage to a Roman Catholic, generated the antipathy and mistrust of reformed groups such as the Puritan and Calvinists, who thought his views too Catholic. He supported high church ecclesiastics such as Richard Montague and William Laud, and failed to successfully aid Protestant forces during the 30 Years' War. His attempt to force the Church of Scotland to adopt high Anglican practices led to the Bishops' War, strengthened the position of the English and Scottish Parliament, and helped precipitate his own downfall. From 1642, Charles fought the armies of the English and Scottish Parliaments in the English Civil War. After his defeat in 1645, he surrendered to a Scottish force that eventually handed him over to the English Parliament. Charles refused to accept his captor's demand for a constitutional monarchy and temporarily escaped captivity in November 1647. Re-imprisoned on the Isles of Wight, Charles forced an alliance with Scotland, but by the end of 1648, Oliver Cromwell's new model army had consolidated its control over England. Charles was tried, convicted, and executed for high treason in January 1649. The monarchy was abolished and a republic called the Commonwealth of England was declared. In 1660, the English interregnum ended when the monarchy was restored to Charles's son, Charles II. Fake white portrait of Black King Charles I, supposedly after original by Van Dyck. Fake white portrait of Black King Charles I from the National Portrait Gallery, London. Now let's go into it, guys. We're gonna read. Here we go. John, I believe this says John Lord Somers, late Lord Chancellor, of credible family in the city of Worcester. And you gotta forgive me, guys. This old English is just sucking. His father was an attorney and bred him to the law, which was his profession for some years before he was taken notice of. He was retained as one of the council for the 7 bishops in King James's reign, and behaved himself in the cause with so much applause as gained him a very great reputation, and first brought him into buffonets, I believe. On King William's ascension to the throne, he was made Attorney General, Lord Keeper, Lord Chancellor, and Peer, and was for many years chief in the administration of public affairs. He is of, now listen to the description, he is of great deportment, easy and free in conversation, something of a libertine, of middle stature, brown complexion, near 50 years old. Remember, brown skin is black skin peoples mixing with non-black skin peoples to produce brown peoples. I am dark brown. Some people are light brown. That's some admixture there. So he's of middle stature, brown complexion. Now let's see what they give you when you go look him up today. Here's what they give you. And this guy is obviously admixed. Fake white portrait. He's not white. He's more a reddish color, but whatever. Of Black John Somers. First Baron Somers, 1651-1716. He was an English Whig jurist and statesman. He was Lord High Chancellor of England under King William III and was a chief architect of the union between England and Scotland, achieved in 1707, and the Protestant succession achieved in 1714. Now we're going to keep going, guys. This is a very important page, so it's going to take an hour and a half to do it. I don't care. This is going to be, I have to read on the right side because I don't understand what the hell they're saying over here. Daniel, Earl of Nottingham, Secretary of State. His eldest son to Mr. Finch, Lord Chancellor in the reign of King Charles II. He is a gentleman. This gentleman never made any considerable figure till the Revolution, when he zealously opposed King William's coming to the throne, yet was made Secretary of State by the Prince to oblige the church, of which he sets up for a mighty champion. After about 3 years serving in the post, the jealousies of the people, or the people of his being in the French interf. Oh man, this old English sucks. Obliged the king to throw him out again. He opposed the adjuration of Prince of Wales to that degree that he shed tears when the bill passed, yet took that oath on the Queen's ascension to the throne and was made Secretary of State. He hath also the exterior air of buffonet, and application enough to mask him very capable. In his habit and manners very formal, a tall, thin, very black man, like a Spaniard or a Jew, about 50 years old. Let me repeat that, guys. This is John Mackay, who was in Europe. He described this guy as being as black as a Spaniard or a Jew. Every part of Europe was black skin first, whether straight hair, woolly hair, or curly hair, black. They were black first. And let me read it again. And then we're going to look at the fake portrait to the right. Okay? A tall, and this is underlined in red, a tall, thin, very black man, like a Spaniard or a Jew, about 50 years old. And let's see the picture they give you to the right, if you go look him up. Fake white portrait of Black Daniel Finch, 2nd Earl of Nottingham and 7th Earl of Winchilsea, 1647 to 1730. Now let's go on. We're going to describe more peoples. This is a very exhausting read, so if you guys don't like to read, it is called Daily Read. You don't have to read, you just have to listen. Okay, Charles, Duke of Somerset, master of the horse, of the ancient family of Seymour, who made for great figure in the reign of Edward VI. This duke, in the reign of King Charles II, had the garter and married the heiress of Piercy of Northumberland, which much increased his estate. But let me enlarge this a little bit so I can actually read it. If I can actually do it. Okay, it's not doing it. Okay, fine. Okay, which much increased his estate, but he made no considerable figure till the reign of King James, when being in waiting as bedchamberman at the arrival of the Pope's nuptials in England, and refusing to assist at the ceremony of the introduction, he was dismissed from all his employments. He is of middle stature, well shaped, a very black complexion, a lover of music and poetry, of good judgment, but by reason of a great hesitation in his speech, once expression, he's about 42 years old. Now let's look at John Duke of Buckinghamshire and Lord Privy Seal. Was Earl of, I believe that's Madugrieve, in the reign of King Charles II, had the garter and made a considerable figure at court. His, what is this? His preface, I don't know what that word is. Sorry, guys. Old English is no good for me. Okay, his, I believe his presumptions made him make love to the Princess Anne, now Queen, for which he left the kingdom, but soon after returned and was made Lord Chamberlain by King James. He is a nobleman of learning and a good natural parts, but of no principles, violent for the high church. Oh, okay. violent for the high church, yes, yet seldom goes to it. Very proud, insolent, and covetous, and takes all advantages. In paying his debt unwilling, and is neither esteemed nor beloved. For notwithstanding his great interest at court, it is certain that he had none in either house of parliament or in the country. He is of a middle stature, of a brown complexion, with fore lofty look, near 60 years old. Remember, brown peoples or black peoples reduced through mixing. Okay? All right, let's go over to the third part. Charles, Duke of St. Albans, is son to King Charles II. Pay attention to that, guys. Charles, Duke of St. Albans, is son to King Charles II by Miss, I believe that says, Guise. I don't know, Miss Gwen or Guise. Was made by King Williams one of the bedchamber and captain of the band of performers or pensioners, and sent by the king to France to congratulate the marriage of the Duke of Burgundy. He is a gentleman, every way the beau natural, well-breed, doeth not love buffonets. Man, the way they talk is horrible. Is well affected to the constitution of his country. He is of a black complexion, not so tall as the Duke of Northumberland, and yet very like King Charles, turned of 32 years old. Remember, this is the son to King Charles II. And now let's see his description. He is of a black complexion, not so tall as the Duke of Northumberland, and yet very like King Charles, turn of 30 years old, guys. Come on now, guys. All the royalty of Europe were diverse, keyword diverse, black peoples. So what we're getting today is nonsense. Okay? Now, Charles Fitzroy, Duke of Grafton, is grandson to King Charles II, and son to the heirs of I believe Bennett, Earl of Arlington, is a very pretty gentleman, have both, what it says there, being abroad in the world, zealous for the constitution of his country, a tall black man about 25 years old, guys. Okay? I'm going to do 3 more because it's a lot, and then we're going to pick up where we left off. Okay, here we go. And let's go to page 75 in the book that John Mackay wrote. You can look up at the beginning of the the reading where I talk about the name of the book by John Mackay. Okay, this is Earl of Kingston, of the name and family of Pierpoint, had a very good estate, is a very fine gentleman, of good sense, well-bred, and lover of the ladies, entirely in the interest of his country, makes a good figure, is of a black complexion, well made, not 40 years old. This is in the 1600s. Britain is still ruled majority by black peoples, guys. Come on now. Okay? Okay, and you're going to hear something that sounds very strange. They're going to use the word ruddy to talk about black peoples, because sometimes you see a person that's so black, when the UV radiation from the sun hits them, it reflects purple. They look black purple. Or the UV radiation hits them, it reflects blue, a purplish or a bluish look. And you also have ruddy or sanguine. That was first used to describe black peoples. Now let's look at it. Okay, it's going to talk about Thomas Tufton, Earl of Thanet, I believe. Of the name of Tufton, was born a 4th or 5th brother, and was in years before he came into the honor of estate. He improves his estate greatly, which is very considerable. He is a good country gentleman, great affecter of the prerogatives of the monarchy and the church. A thin, tall, black, red-faced man turned 50 years old. Red face, ruddy. He's so black when that sun hits him, it reflects reddish. You're so black when the light from the UV radiation from the sun hits you, you look purplish or bluish. Pay attention, guys. Okay? Edward Montague, Earl of Sandwich, is a branch of the family of Montague and grandson of the Earl who was burnt at sea in the Sol Bay engagement, 1665. He was gentleman of horse to the prince of very ordinary parts, married the witty Lord Rochester's daughter, who makes him very expensive, a tall, thin, black man about 35 years old. Okay, let's read one more. Okay, guys. Okay, Richard, Earl of, I believe that's Rollo. I don't know if I said it correctly, but the old English is killing me. All right, guys, let's move on. Is a peer of Kingdom of Ireland. Is a peer of the Kingdom of Ireland, of a great deal of wit, had originally no great estate, yet had spent more money. Excuse me for the cars outside, guys. I'm in my truck. I'm a truck driver right now. All right. Had originally no great estate, yet had spent more money, built more fine houses, and laid out more on household furniture and gardening than any other nobleman in England. He is a great epicure and prodigious expensive. Was a paymaster general all the last war, and is above 100,000 pounds sterling in arrear, which several parliaments have been calling him to an account for. Yet he escaped with the punishment only of losing his place, which the Queen took from him and divided between Mr. and Mr. Ho. He's a bold man and very happy in jests and repartees, and had often turned the humor of the House of Commons when they have designed to have been very severe. He's a very fat black, and he's very fat black and turned of 60 years old. This is Britain, guys. Okay? Now, when we come back, we're going to start off Court of Great Britain, page number 35, and John Duke of Newcastle. Matter of fact, let's just go ahead and read. No, it's going to be too much. I'm going to put in the next video, guys. All right, guys. So with that, remember, this is real history worldwide. Excuse me. Don't need that. This is real history worldwide. And I thank you guys for checking it out. You don't have to subscribe, but please do check out the website, guys. That is the most important part. And you'll find out that all the original human beings and civilizations were diverse blacks. Now, if you want to get into the genetics of how the first redheads and blondes, non-brown eyes and non-black skin came into existence through genetic mutations from the original black hair, brown eyes, and black skin peoples, I can do a video on that because I'm into genetics, okay? Because from two, we get all the peoples on the planet. But that's another story, guys. So thank you guys for checking me out. Once I get 100 subscribers, I'm going to go on the big screen, and this is nothing. This is just a tip of the iceberg. So I appreciate you guys for checking me out. God bless, and I'll see you in part 2. This is part 1. All right. Peace.